Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening again. We are back with Thursday Thoughts. And today's meeting particularly is going to really kindle those thoughts of yours. And you're really going to think a lot. Well, one of the common traits of a CA student is they do a lot of thinking and they keep thinking most of the time. If you talk about it, it's a dream. If you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, it's real. Today, I have immense pleasure to introduce our speaker. What is she to me? She's a colleague now. She's a partner. She's a teacher in KVC. She's a daughter of mine. She's also one of my closest friends. I'm so proud of this girl, whom I know to be a very organized person. Give her any task and she has to be perfect. So without wasting much time, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you CA Deepika Vasani with the power of 3. Over to you, darling.
Thank you so much, sir. Good evening, everyone. Before I take over, I would just like to share the screen with you. So bear with me for about 30 seconds. For the smooth functioning of this entire schedule that we have, I request all of you to not have any annotations on the screen and also keep yourself muted throughout the entire video. Thank you very much. I thank you in advance for your cooperation. All right. Good evening once again. Thank you, Kiran sir, for such a lovely introduction, and thank you, KVC Academy, for giving me this opportunity to host and speak about 3 topics which are very close to me. Planning, prioritizing, and performing. This is something that every CA student needs, or any person in general also needs throughout their entire curriculum or whatever they are doing it is. Now, in this session today, I am not going to give you anything that you don't already know. Okay, and that's the weirdest part about motivation. It comes through us through different ways. I'm going to tell you everything that you already know because there's nothing I can tell you that you do not know about these 3 topics. But I'm going to share with you today a few tips that I have discovered through my life as a student, and a few tips that I've discovered through my life as a teacher, and a few more which I wish I had discovered as a student. So I'm going to share them with you throughout this session, and I hope it is beneficial to you. Planning, prioritizing, and performing. We're going to have 3 segments of about 10 to 15 minutes each. So let's begin with the first one that we have in front of us, planning. What exactly is planning? It is foreseeing your future, what exactly you want to do. It's scheduling it in a manner so that you have your targets set in front of you. But what people tend to do with planning is they overdo it. Okay, if I have done a mistake as a student, I have put too many things in my plate. Okay, you may have done this also when serving yourself in a buffet. You put too on your plate that you do not know what exactly you want to eat first. So always I have noticed this thing that when you have too much to do, you end up doing nothing. So in planning, one of the most important things you need to remember is to try and do little. Set targets in such a way that you know you're going to be able to complete it. And when you do that, it is going to be easier for you to finish off whatever target you had planned, because I have started believing in this concept of less is more, which is actually true. That doesn't mean I want you to plan a little less. I want you to cover whatever you have, but when you do that, do not put too much in your timetable. I want to study 8 chapters of accounts today. I want to finish studying 80 sections of law. Because when that happens, and if you're not able to achieve it, you will feel demotivated, and that might affect your studies on the next day. So try to plan whatever you think you're going to finish. Do not put too much in your plan, okay? And a student always asks me this question. Most of the times I end up getting this question is, what time should I study? Should I study in the mornings or should I study at night? What time is good for me? Now, how am I supposed to answer what time is good for you? You should know what time is good for you. But what I can tell you is that I don't care if you're a morning person or a night person, as long as you're a person and you're going to study, it is going to favor you. Now, some people have this habit that they do not find waking up in the morning some of their strong trait. So they prefer staying up in the night. A tip I could give you here is, when you are at your best behavior, that is, you feel you can study well in the morning, then in the mornings, I want you to study those subjects which you feel are a little burden to you. Let's say I'll talk about a theory subject when you have to study theory. So I'm a morning person. I wake up at 3 or 4, whatever time is comfortable for me. And when I start doing that, I'm going to take up a subject which I know is not very dear to me, but it's going to register in my head so good because that morning time is my strongest time. So if you are a morning person, take up that subject which you feel you're going to take much time in because your grasping power is better. And the same thing works in the night. If you feel you're a person who studies better in the night, take up that subject which you do not like studying at that point. And you will have those certain hours during the day where you feel sleepy or you're lethargic, or that is usually your playtime. And during those timings, if you're supposed to study, if you want to study, I want you to study those things which you are not very, pressurizing yourself, you're comfortable with, and you can do it in a peaceful manner. And that is going to build up a routine because, in the morning, when you finish studying whatever you had targeted, you're going to be in a more positive mind frame to get through the rest of the day. Okay, and this really works to your advantage. You can try it and tell me how it works. Because if you finish studying something, let's say a difficult chapter, I have 2 sections which I do not like, and I have finished studying those sections. What happens is, in my mind, there is a positive thinking that I've already finished studying this much, so I have only a little bit left for the day. So when you do that, there is automatically a different mindset that you're going to approach your further studies with. So as long as you are a person who studies during the day and before your exams, you could study in the morning or you could study in the night. That is absolutely your call. A frequent question that I am asked is, how much should I plan? How much planning is too much planning? Honestly, there's a quote in front of you. Planning is procrastination after a point, which is very, very true. Because if you only end up planning, you are not going to have time to execute the plan. I have seen my students prepare n number of timetables. I have been the bakra preparing n number of timetables. But guys, your goal is not to prepare timetables. Your goal is to become a chartered accountant. And for that, a part of your work should be preparing timetables. So you make a timetable today, it doesn't work, you scrap that and you start off the next day. Then again, that timetable is scrapped and you get the drift. That's what happens. But I want you to set smaller targets, or know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, because based on that, you're going to be able to make a plan. And I don't want you to end up wasting all your time in planning. I'm sure Jason sir has given a lot of tips on time management for you. And to manage your time and planning is very important, because if you waste 6 hours of the day planning, then you're not going to have enough strength to study also. So plan in advance, but keep your planning also limited. There is a point up to which you can plan. And to tell you how I plan, I am going to give you 3 tips right now. Okay, there is something called as a progress sheet, cumulative method, and WhatsApp groups. We're going to take through all of these tips one by one, and I'm going to share something with you today. You can have a look at this. All right. So in this method, what I have done is, there are sheets prepared in front of you. You can see group 1 and group 2. And this sheet has got all the subjects of intermediate written. I'm going to take the example for intermediate, but you can do this in any syllabi that is covered, even the foundation level, final level, if you're a CS student or any other student who's watching this. See this. This is the intermediate course that I've taken up, and we have group 1 and group 2, wherein all the subjects, all the chapters covered in the subjects are displayed. You have a coverage of everything, and this has got 2 columns. You have progress in front of you and you have revision in front of you. So how this works, we'll have a demo for this. For the working of this, I have given 5 points. There is something called done, which is symbolizing in green. In progress is yellow. Undone is red. Skipping is black. Not something that I'm going to appreciate, but nevertheless, I'll cover that tip. And you have something called remarks, which I've given blue. And some of my students who are watching this, you may have come across me doing this for you when you're studying for your foundation or intermediate. And it's going to seem helpful. Okay, it's just a little bit of investment in the beginning. Also, I would like to tell you that you do not need to waste your time preparing the sheet. You can just mail me that you want the sheet, and I will have these sheets mailed back to you. So what you need to do is only focus on this aspect. And to again demonstrate this aspect, how this works, I've taken up the subject that I teach, which is other laws, or like I like to call it, allied laws, in the paper number 2 of intermediate level, which is this part. You have the Indian Contract Act, Negotiable Instruments Act, General Clauses Act, and Interpretation of Statutes, Deeds, and Documents. I have color-coded these in the progress column, where I have finished studying Contract of Indemnity and Guarantee and the General Clauses Act. Agency is something that I haven't started yet. I'm yet to do it. Okay, undone doesn't mean you're never going to do it. I'm yet to do it. For bailment and pledge, you have it covered in yellow. And if you see the last chapter, which is only a demonstration, it is put in the column of skip. But notice this Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, which is highlighted in blue. And as soon as I move the cursor to that blue point, you can see that the remark or the comment section appears, which says that amendments have taken place and you need to focus on them a little more. So this way you will have a lot of things to put in the remarks. Maybe you could have a point that you have missed that particular session in your coaching center and you have to take the notes from your friend, or you want to watch a particular video to clear your doubts, or you have to borrow some notes, get the amendment list, anything there is. So all that comes in the remark section. You can also include any other point that you have in the remark section, whatever is comfortable for you. So this goes in your progress column. And once the progress column is highlighted, your goal should be to see more of greens, because that is what you have done. And it's not sufficient that you do this only once. So after doing it for the first time in your progress column, you have column number 2, which is revision column. And this is just one here, but I'm hoping that in your list or your sheet that you prepare, you have a lot more. There's revision 2, revision 3, and number of revisions depending on when your attempt is. So you can do this for all the subjects. You can do this for both the groups combined, because when you see this entire sheet, okay, after it's done or as in when you're doing it, you are going to feel that, okay, this is where I lag. This subject, there are more reds, I need to do this. This subject, there are more yellows, that means I need to finish off this subject soon. This subject is more of green, that means I'm good with this subject, I can focus on the other subjects which are red. Your goal should be to see the entire Excel sheet in green and very few concepts in black. Okay, try to avoid the black as much as possible, but as there's another funda that I believe in, which is instead of doing 100% in a 80% way, I would rather do 80% in a 100% manner. This is something that I have followed at my final level, not in my foundation level, but in the intermediate level and final level, I had to adapt to this, because I believe that whatever you do, that has to be done 100%. So I did have a few black marks here and there. Nevertheless, I've crossed that ocean. So you can use this tip as well. And you may feel that this is going to be a little tedious for you to come back. You don't have to do this every day. You can do this once a week. You can do this once in 10 days. The hard part is just preparing the Excel sheet, which KVC has already done for you. So we can send this to you anytime you wish. And this is going to make it a little easier, and you will feel more organized, because when you look at this in totality, you will know where your exact position in the syllabus. So this is one of the aspects, which is progress sheet. I'm pretty sure that at least 2 or 3 students from this crowd will use this, because I've tried and tested this method. It's not that it's worked only on me. There are a lot of other students who have also used this, and it has proved to be beneficial for somebody to keep a track on this. Okay, so that was the progress sheet method. Next, we move on to the cumulative method. Now, what exactly is this cumulative method? I teach the subject of business law at the foundation level. There is business and commercial knowledge, there is strategic management and allied laws at the intermediate level. But all these subjects, unfortunately for me, happen to be theory subjects. So many of my students find this issue that how are they going to cope up with theory subjects? How are they going to finish studying? Well, are they going to remember all of this? Are they going to forget everything at the end of the exam, or whenever the exam is approaching? How do you go about this? So for that, there's another idea that we have, which is cumulative method. I'm going to take again a sample here, which is CA Intermediate Corporate Law, and the syllabus for that has 148 sections which the student is required to study. Now, will I remember this the next month if I do it in this month? Should I do it at the last minute? Because if it's a theory subject, I'm going to remember this in the end, and by the time I come to the exam, I will forget anyway. So why am I studying now? Frequently asked questions and experienced situations. So what I followed here, I'm going to tell you that first, and then I'm going to give you 2-3 other alternatives which you could adapt to. So look at this alternative 1 that you have in front of you. There is the subject is corporate law, 148 sections, and on day 1 we are studying 4 sections. I've taken an average of 4 sections. So on day 1 we're studying section 1 to section 4. Good, we're very happy with the progress. You pat your back, you move on to day 2. Day 2, you are studying 5, 6, 7, and 8. You're studying them. But what I want you to do is not let go of the sections you studied on the previous day. Now, again, I'm not asking you to prepare new notes. I'm not asking you to sit and study as if you're studying it for the first time. You're only revising it. So the time taken by you is going to be lesser. Plus, you're going to have this satisfying feeling within you that you have not forgotten whatever you studied yesterday. It could seem a little difficult to adopt to this method, but we are in day 2. So move on to day 3. And on day 3, you're going to study section 9, 10, 11, and 12. And after that, you are also going to revise section 1 to section 8. After studying 9, 10, 11, and 12, I want you to revise section 1 to section 8. Yes, some of you right now are thinking that this lady is crazy and we should stop listening to her right now, but wait till I finish. Day 4, I want you to study section 1 to section 16. Why? Why do I want you to do this? Or rather, why I did this? I'm not forcing this on you. I'm just telling you how it helped me. Now, I am a person who deals with a lot of anxiety sometimes. I panic too soon. I'm too scared. I need not be scared, but that's just who I am. So to build my confidence up, I adopted this method. Now on day 4, I would have already finished section 1 to 4 3 times. So the time that is going to be taken by me on day 4 is going to be extremely less. Now when I finish that, and I know that I haven't forgotten it, it is only going to add that ego boost in me ki yes, I can do this. I can do this for all the sections. And I will also finish studying 13, 14, 15, 16 that day. I'm going to take time in that, and it is going to seem like you're spending a lot of time on it, at least on day 4, day 5, day 6, kuch bhi. But when you reach day 37, that is the final day, where you're going to do sections 145, 146, 147, and 148. Apart from that, you are also going to revise section 1 to section 144. Yes, again, sounds a little crazy, but the speed at which you're going to go with those sections is going to be extremely good. Plus, you're going to remember it, and you're not going to have that fear that you have forgotten it. This is the cumulative method that I have followed. for the subject of corporate law and for the subject of ISCA. Okay, the previous model of CA had a subject called ISCA, which was related to IT, not a very favored subject by many of the CA students, but I followed this because that subject used to scare me the most, that if I'm going to lose an attempt, it is going to be because of that subject. So I mastered myself, and I know that I have taken a lot more time than I should have, but it did benefit me. I did end up scoring the highest in that paper, and that is a paper that most students would panic about. So when I have a paper that I am scared about, you may not believe this, but the paper that I'm the most scared about in the course of CA would be corporate law or law in general. So I followed this cumulative method, and because of this, as and when I studied in my revision 2 or revision 3 or whichever revision that I did reach, I did not forget anything. I did not have that fear because it is there in my brain fixed. I remember all the sections. And when you revise, no, I don't want you to revise word to word, sentence by sentence. You can just have a glance at it and your brain knows that you've already registered this. So this is going to benefit you, okay? It did benefit me. So you can take this alternative 1. And there is also an alternative 2, in case you find this method a little too crazy, which I believe it is, but then the result is shown. So in the alternative 2, what you could do is 4 sections, 5 sections, 3 sections, kuch bhi. We'll take 4 sections as the base here. So I'm studying 4 sections every day between Monday to Saturday. Again, I want you to follow the cumulative method, but that Saturday, you stop. Sunday, you revise everything, and from Monday, you start fresh. And when you start on Monday, you are not going to revise whatever sections you did between Monday to Saturday again. You're going to go to the week number 2, Monday to Saturday, new set of sections. But when you go to Sunday, that Sunday, I want you to revise whatever you did in week 1 as well as week 2. And that is alternative 2 for those of you who find the previous alternative a lot more consuming, time consuming. And this way you can make up your alternative 3, alternative 4, where you could have 3 days, 4th day revision, or you could go 10 days if you feel that memory is your strong side. You could go 15 days, whatever is comfortable to you. But I still suggest, strongly suggest, that do keep revision somewhere in between your plan that you have made. Because let's say you've studied something on the 1st of June, okay? It is not humanly possible to remember it exactly the same way in the month of September if you haven't given yourself time to revise whatever you did in the first week of June. And what will happen in the month of September when you cannot remember it? A little more of anxiety, a little more of frustration, that why did I study in June? I could have directly studied it in September. It's as good as I'm studying it for the first time. And I've been there. I've been in the month of September and been frustrated. So after that, I started following this alternative 1, alternative 2, alternative 3, whatever is comfortable for you. But this method really helps in case of any theory subject that you have. Okay, so this was tip number 2, cumulative method. I'll take up whatever doubts you have in the progress sheet as well as cumulative method as and when we finish the session. You can leave your doubts in the chat box later on. And this last group, the last WhatsApp groups is something that I was not familiar with as a student, but it is helping me as a teacher. So what happens here is, I take up 3 to 4 subjects, and most of the times, suddenly I'm say scrolling Instagram or scrolling Facebook or Quora or Pinterest or whatever. I come across these situations or pictures or articles that I could share with my students in class. This happens for me a lot in the subject of strategic management, where we give a lot of examples in general. So for that subject, there are so many things that I want to share with my students, which I know I will forget. Okay, so one of my friends gave me this idea of creating a WhatsApp group. Now, how do you do this? Right now, I have like 8 to 10 groups on my phone. There is personal, there is professional, there is articles, there are poems, there's photography page, everything. So what I did is I created a WhatsApp group in which there were 2 people involved, me and my brother. And once that group is created, I would ask my brother to leave the group. So that leaves only me in the group. And I have changed the name of that group, for example, to strategic management. It's a subject for me. So I have changed the name of the group to strategic management. Number of participants in that group, 1, me. Now what I do, whenever I come across something that is related to that subject, if it's a screenshot or a link or a picture, whatever it is, I send it to that group. And whenever I'm preparing for the subject or I want to talk about that subject, I share it on that group and keep it as a reminder. So I go back, look at the group, scroll through the entire group, the media, whatever it is, and I know what I have to give my students or share with them. Now this can be done by you in every subject, whatever subject you have amendments or links, because I remember this being a lot of problem for me as a BCom student. So what used to happen in BCom is we had these internal exams, and the day before we would get all the photocopies, and most of us even wouldn't get the photocopies. We would have our class leaders or the monitors take pictures of that and send it across to the students. Now, when you go to your gallery, you can see only pictures of notes. And this causes a lot of irritation and annoyance while studying. So back then I couldn't think of this. This is something that I developed recently, and I do that now. I do it for the subject of law, and I do it for the subject of strategic management. I also have this group which is just personal. It is something that maybe I have to remember to meditate or to remember to get up at this particular time, make a phone call to somebody. It is going to make your life easier. I believe that is what technology was made for. So might as well put it to some good use other than just sharing those forwards that we get. So this is what WhatsApp groups you can do. And if you feel that, okay, you don't need a subject for every group, I mean, you don't need a group for every subject, just create it for the subjects you feel you need a WhatsApp group, or you can just make it for studying group 1, or you can make it for your personal self, maybe a few reminders that I need to revise this, I need to get notes for this, I need to clear it out, because you will note it down somewhere in the book, but you will forget where the fact is noted down, and you are not a person who has sufficient time to waste it. You are not going to spend time searching for that piece of paper you have lost or that book where you have kept it, nothing. I want you to completely be so organized in your work that you are not going to have any time wasters, waste more time than you already are on social media. So these are 3 things related to planning that I have followed, which is progress sheet, cumulative method, and WhatsApp groups. You can take it or leave it. And if you have any doubts relating to this, I will clarify it at the end of the session. For now, we'll move on to the next one, which is prioritizing. And I'm going to give the statutory warning to you that, again, I'm no expert at this, but through my experience, this is what I have gathered of prioritizing. And see this, the most important thing in life is knowing the most important things in life. Take a second to read that. Okay. Now, this most important things that you're seeing will change depending on your age and what you are pursuing. If you're a student, your priority should be your family, your mental health, and your studies. If you are at the professional level, you will have different priorities. So what is important is for you to know what your priorities are. Unless you know what your priorities are, you cannot set your focus on that. So if you're a person who's writing your exam in the next 2-3 months, your priorities should be your mental health and your exams. So just focus on that. Everything else can wait. People ask me, what if I don't talk to my friends? They're going to stop talking to me. The real ones aren't going to stop talking to you. If they are someone who really care about you, they're going to know that what you're doing right now is more important than every other thing that you have to do. So you're going to focus on the task at hand, because only if you focus on the task at hand, you're going to finish it, and then you're going to be able to focus on something else. So please know what is more important to you, whether it is your studies or whether it is your profession, what it is that is most important to you, and then you can plan better. Because if you don't know what your priorities are, your step number 1, which is planning, that also is going to go into a fail. And a janda that my students keep roaming around with is, I don't know where to start, ma'am. What should I start with? Which subject should I start with? And I get this a lot. And see this quote: in case you have no idea what you want to do, start with what you do want to do. Again, true. I don't know which subject I want to start. I have 4 subjects in my curriculum. I have accounts, I have tax, I have law, and I have costing. I don't know what to start, but I know that I'm not a person who likes law. So I definitely don't want to start with law. I'll start with a subject that I like. So if you don't know what you want to do, at least you know what you don't want to do. So cancel off things that you don't want to do. And this way, you'll be able to prioritize better. Now, this was in case of subject I told you. In general, you do not want to waste your time. So don't waste it. What are the things that will waste your time? Too much TV, too much social media. Learn how to control it. There are two categories of people here. Category number one, which will shut them off completely, throw their phone away in some corner, delete their Instagram account, delete their Facebook account. I belong in that category because I have no self-control. I had no self-control. If I'm given the option today, I know that I have a limit and I'm going to check only that much. So if you fall under category 2, where you have that much self-control, stick to category 2. It's okay. But if you feel that you're not a person who can control yourself, quitting social media for 2 months is not going to cause that much problem in your life as much as it is going to cause if you do not quit it. So if you feel that you have a lot of time wasters in front of you, delete those time wasters because you can waste enough time after you have cleared your exams. Okay, so that was the second thing. And the third thing, every time you choose to spend your time on something, you are choosing not to spend it elsewhere. After I have read this now, anytime that I'm taking a break or I'm relaxing, this keeps ringing in my head. If I have to prepare notes for my students and I'm watching TV, it rings in my head that because you're watching TV, you're not able to prepare notes for your students. And I wish that I had thought of this as a student because I wasted a lot of time as a student, which I do regret, which is why I'm giving you bhashan as to why you shouldn't waste it. All these things that I'm telling you, I have made these mistakes and I do not want you to make these mistakes. So please, whenever you are wasting your time, just think where else you could have spent it. What more productive task you could have performed in that time that you're choosing to waste. So do not waste a lot of time, at least the time that is in your control. You will end up giving up more important things like your sleep or your time for relaxation during those sessions, because of which the entire study methodology will get disrupted. So avoid time wasters as much as possible. And again, that is a time consuming process. You cannot delete social media on day one and get 16 hours of attention immediately. It is going to take a little time. So start investing that because it is for you. So now we're going to go to 3 tips of prioritizing, which have helped me and which I think is going to help you as well. 1 minute. All right. So I have this point in front of you, bar of prioritization matrix. Does anyone know any prioritization matrix? You could unmute yourself and share it with me. Anyone knows any prioritization matrix? It's not as complicated as it sounds. Prioritization matrix. It's something very important. Anyone wants to guess it? Okay, I'll share it with you. Again, I did not follow this as a student because I was not aware about this, but I did follow it as a teacher. So look at this. Something you're familiar with, but it probably didn't strike you at this point. The urgent, not urgent, important, not important matrix. Again, here, I don't expect you to draw this matrix in your notebook and sit and pen it down every day. I want you to have a mental image of this, and suppose you have to do something or you want to do something. Is it really urgent? Is it really important? These are the 2 questions I want you to ask yourself, because this will help you in prioritizing better. So you have 4 quadrants in front of you right now. If it's urgent as well as important, you do it and you do it right now. If it's not so urgent, but it's still important, you decide when to do it because it has to be done. There's a reason it is important. If it's urgent and not so important, you can either delegate it, delay it, or if it's none of that is possible, then wrap it up quickly because it's not very important, it's just urgent. And the final matrix, please delete it, the final quadrant. If it's not urgent, it's not important, which is a lot of factors right now in your life as a student, please delete it. Okay, because This can be done later on once you've finished whatever you have in mind. And if you follow this 2-3 times, okay, just making a mental image of this and deciding whether it is actually urgent or important, it is going to make a smooth flow in whatever activities that you have planned throughout the day. You can do this day-wise, you can do this week-wise, you can do this for your studies, anywhere it is. This matrix can be applied even in your academics or in your extracurriculars also. You don't have to be drawing it or writing it every time. Just make a mental image of it and it will help. So that was prioritization matrix. And the second tip is balancing. Nobody will learn this 100% today, okay? Nobody will learn this 100%, and you cannot master this later also, but you can try to. And that is the first step, trying to do something. So learn to balance. Mistakes that people do is when they have their exams coming up, they only study. They give up on sleep, they give up on eating right, they give up on resting, they give up on their basic activities which kept them going, they give up on their passion. And this again is not correct. You can't only study. You shouldn't only study. You have to sleep right, you have to eat right. So learn how to balance, and this will come slowly when you learn how to prioritize, when you're planning right. It is something that you gain through practice. You cannot learn this session, you cannot watch this session and say that now I know how to balance my life. No, it's not going to happen. Even I don't know how to balance my life perfectly yet, but I'm realizing that balancing between work and personal life is important. So for you as a student, it should be between your studies and between your personal life. Okay, too much of anything is not good, unless it's chocolate, I think. Anyway, the last theory, target theory. Again, I learned this as a student very much, but I know the importance of it as a teacher. So many of the times when I conduct a quiz or I ask questions to my students in class, they least bother to answer unless there's a punishment involved. That is punishment theory. But if I tell my student that if they do this, I'm going to give them something. The motivation to do that suddenly increases. I don't know how this works or why is it like this. But if I tell my student that if they finish studying this or if they get more than 50 out of 80 in this test, I'm going to give them a chocolate or I'm going to give them a gift. They suddenly become this over-motivated student who wants to achieve it. Now, while you're studying at home, you cannot expect me to come and give you everything or your faculties or your parents to come and give you a gift. But set targets for yourself and have these little rewards that you give yourself if you achieve this target. If I finish studying this chapter, I think Jason sir had spoken about this in his session, which is the same thing I used to follow. If I finish studying today's session, today's plan, before I go to sleep, I can watch one episode of Friends. If I finish studying this much in 1 week, I'm going to take a day's break, probably go out and meet a friend. This is target theory. When you know that you have something that you like waiting at the end of your task, your desire to perform that task is suddenly uplifted. You feel better about doing it and you don't take it as a burden as much. So try this target theory. You don't have to always give yourself huge rewards. Little things, maybe 10 minutes of extra sleep, one little bar of chocolate, anything it could be, but this target theory does work. Okay, so this was about prioritizing, but as much as you plan, as much as you prioritize, none of it is going to work unless you do the next most important thing, which is to perform. Okay, whatever you have decided in your planning, if you're a person who can prioritize absolutely accurately, it is going to be useless if you are a person who cannot perform. I think you know this, that if you've studied for 6 months, like a boss, you've nailed every paper there is, you have done all your revision, answered all the mock tests, everything is perfect. But you enter the exam hall, you start freaking out, there is one question in your paper you do not know, and your entire 3 hours is spent on thinking about that one question you don't know, instead of thinking about all the other questions that you know. And this I call performance anxiety, which sometimes I do have. But we've learned to cope with that. And how do you deal with that? Again, a few tips on that as well. It was all out of personal experience. This happens Maybe, okay, I'm not sure if this holds good for everything. That's why I have said almost everything will work if you unplug it for a few minutes, including yourself. I get a lot of messages from my students saying, ma'am, I'm tired, I'm fed up, I need a break. If you know that, why are you telling me? Give yourself a break. Take 2-3 hours of rest. Take that Monday off where you are not wasting it entirely, but you're not only into your studies. Because that is going to recharge you. It's going to make you feel a lot better when you come back on the next day. You have to take a break. You owe yourself a break if you've studied. But I don't want you to take a break even before you started studying. That is not what I call a break. But yes, do give yourself that credit that yes, you worked hard the entire week and you can take 3 hours for yourself to do something that you love. Because those 3 hours are going to be spent by you in performing better in the next week. Okay, so try to unplug yourself for a few minutes from something that you're tired of doing. It's automatically going to be helpful. The way you say no to things is by having a bigger yes burning inside. You're studying absolutely well. One notification on your phone. You take the phone, scroll through everything, and before you know it, it's already 1 hour. You're studying perfectly, one phone call from your friend, and after that, the entire day is gone. Learn to say no. Learn to say no. And the only way you're going to learn to say no to things is because you have a bigger yes burning inside, that your priority right now is your goal. When you start doing this, you're going to be able to plan better, prioritize better, and perform even more better than that. Now, there's something about willpower that I learned, which is the person who has the greatest willpower is not someone who stops doing things. Okay, it is someone who stops wanting to do those things, and that will happen only when there is a bigger yes burning inside you, that you want to become a chartered accountant, you want to become a professional in whichever field that you have opted for. So learn how to say no. Full stop rule, a favorite one. Full stop rule: when you are full, stop. 3 things that it can apply to: sleep, eating, very important, studying. Because otherwise it's going to cause problem in your performance. When you're full stop, if you feel you have slept enough, stop. Stop taking a nap because this is your nap time. If you feel you don't need a nap, don't take it. If you feel you need a nap, take it. If you feel that you're good with that one slice of pizza, stop eating it. You don't have to eat it just because the pizza is there in front of you. Because when we try to overdo things, it's only going to affect your performance. And this is very much applicable in studies also. There are many number of times that my brain has told me that I can't. Enough. 10 sections for the day and you need to stop. It's not helping. Whatever you're studying from the 11th section is not entering my head. I tell this to myself, but no, it is there in my plan. What if I don't finish it? Next day, I will have more burden. Thus, my entire plan will fail. What's the point of completing your timetable when you're not having it being effective enough? So when you feel that you're full, stop. Okay, when it comes to sleeping, when it comes to eating, as well as when it comes to studying. Because your brain needs rest, get that enough sleep, start on the next day. It's okay. Your plan failing is better than your performance failing. Okay? Now, 3 tips relating to performance also. Last 3 tips that I have for you. Make your notes your holy book. You will have to make notes, and I cannot stress enough on how important it is to make notes. Okay, please make your notes. Let your notes not be a copy paste of the material. Your notes is something that is going to summarize every other topic there is. Whatever is there in your books, it is going to summarize it for you. If you are writing it in terms of a practical subject, probably all the formulas. If you're writing it in terms of a theory subject, the names of the sections, the numbers of the sections, plus here and there, the section put in your own words, maybe if the provision is difficult. But I urge you to make your own notes, whatever it is, because that is going to come handy. I'll tell you when in the last point. Another thing, we've already told you in the other sessions, 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. 2 to 5 is the time that CA students have their exams scheduled, between 2 to 5 in the afternoon, which is a very pleasant time because the whole world is awake that time. No, that is the time when you feel sleepy because you've just had your lunch and you're so used to enjoying your holidays, study holidays, revision holidays, whatever it is, that this time you are sleepy and you're used to your routine. So what I did was 2-3 months before my exams were due, I started making this the time I perform the most. Studying something, writing something, anything. I used to keep my brain active. Kiran sir has told me this. I used to keep my brain active how much ever possible during the day. It's okay if I don't finish something in the morning, but between this time, 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., I have to keep it 100% active because this will become a habit for you. And believe it or not, it is going to be effective in the exam. 2 to 5, I used to keep myself in such a way that I don't touch my phone, I don't talk to anyone outside because that's what the environment is going to be in your exam hall. So try to follow this 2 to 5. I have made it 1:30 because that is the time you enter your exam hall. You're given the paper at 1:45. So you need your brain to function like that. So do this right now. That doesn't mean you only study between 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Do it for the rest of the day also, but I want you to keep your brain the most active during this time. Okay. And the last one is a mistake that I made during my final level also, which is 1.5 day method. Okay, some of you may know this, but all the CA students are aware that they are going to get a good 1.5 day before their exam to write, to study or finish whatever it is they have studied throughout the 6 months. For a subject like law, to finish off that subject, a revision, I would take 5 days because I would nicely divide it. This is what I'm going to do. This is how much I'm going to finish. But what happened was at the time of the exam, I had to cover everything that I covered in those 5 days within 1.5 days. And I did not finish it. And that not finishing it led to panic. That panic affected my performance. So I started following this method in my group 2 attempt, where I would prepare myself mentally that I had only 1.5 day to cover the entire subject and I have to finish studying the subject. So when I would plan my revision for that subject, I would keep only 1.5 day. I would train my mind in such a way that throughout that entire 1.5 days, I finish studying whatever it is that I've studied. And this third point will happen only if you've performed point 1 in a good manner. Unless I had my notes, it would be impossible for me to read each and every point from material like audit. How will I finish the entire auditing syllabus a day before the exam? It seemed highly impossible where notes come handy. So when you've prepared your notes right, a little before your exam, 1 or 2 months before your exam, whenever it is that you finish studying, try to cover the entire subject in 1.5 days. And if you're not able to, see what are the problems you face. See how you can mend this a day before your actual exams. You will have mock tests and try to perform this even in the mock tests, and 1 or 2 mock tests are not enough. Give yourself more mock tests during the same time, 1:30 to 5. It's going to train your brain better, but try to follow this last point where you have covered the entire subject within 1.5 days, because that is exactly the amount of time you are going to get a day before your actual exam, except for the first paper. For accounts, you have sufficient time, so that's okay. But for the rest of the subjects, you will have only 1.5 day left. So try to follow this so that on the day of the exam, you don't feel any difficulty in covering the syllabi you have planned. Okay. So these are a couple of things for performance, and these are 3 general do's that you have. Set yourself a vision, see what you want to do. Write your name in your notebook, and before that, add those 2 letters that you wish to see yourself with. Keep that right now, and when you have that vision every day in your head, you're going to want to get there. Okay, learn the art of balance. Try to meditate. Okay, this has got nothing to do with religion or what you believe in. But I just believe that meditation calms you and helps you study better. Again, I'm telling you because I didn't do it while I was a student, but a lot of my students give me that much of a headache that I started doing it as a teacher. So try to meditate and reward yourself. When you reward yourself, your desire to complete your target is even more. 3 don'ts, more important than the do's. Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. I cannot understand this section. I will waste the entire day trying to beat myself that I didn't understand this section instead of doing a few others. Common mistake. Stop that immediately. Stop that when you are aware that you're letting something interfere with whatever you can do. Please do not let it interfere. It's okay. You don't have to do everything you can't do. Leave it. Let it not disturb whatever you can do at least, okay? Kiran sir mentioned in the beginning that I was trying to be a perfectionist, and over the years I've realized that that is another mistake that I committed. I tried to perfect myself in something so much that it was slowing my routine down. It was not helping me be the best, okay? Perfection slows you down. I absolutely agree with this. So don't try to perfect yourself, learn. There is always a scope of improvisation, but perfection is not your aim. And the last one, don't believe everything that I have said here, because whatever I'm saying is my experience. It will not work 100% for you. Maybe after listening to this, you can make up your own amends here and there, and that will benefit you. So don't believe everything I've said. I used to watch YouTube videos and motivational videos and say that, okay, whatever they have said, that is what I'm going to do. But we are all different. Maybe I am not a person who can follow alternative 2. I'm a person who can follow alternative 1. So do that. Make a few changes here and there, alterations here and there, modify whatever we have said, and try to improvise through that and put yourself there, okay? Because whatever happens at the end of the day, you will learn all these 3 things only by practice. So the last P that I would like to address to you is practice. Practice to plan, practice to prioritize, and practice to perform, because unless you have done that, you are not going to excel. It's going to take time. It's a time-consuming process, but it's going to be absolutely worth it. And I can tell you by experience that it is worth it. Okay, so that is all that I had to share with you, and may have a few questions, so I'm ready for them. You can shoot them and I'll shoot them back at you with the answers. Anything that I can help you with.
I request the students to put their questions in the chat box or ask over the mic. You can unmute yourself and ask the question too. Varun has raised his hand. If you can talk to Varun, Deepika.
Varun?
No, sir, by mistake.
Okay.
It's okay.
You can send your questions in the chat. You can either message me privately or you can put it under everyone. I have one question right now. Do plans really work? Plans don't work actually. You are supposed to work. You just make a plan, and once you've made that, it depends on how badly you want that plan to work. So unless you work, the plan will not work. Okay, yes, I did mention about the progress sheet. If you have any doubts in the progress sheet, you can ask me that. Maybe I went a little fast there, but you can message me your doubts. For those of you who want the progress sheets, you can WhatsApp me. Most of you have my number. In case you don't have my number, you can message KVC Academy. You can mail them, you can DM them on Instagram or WhatsApp, and you will get those progress sheets. How do we manage practical subjects? How do you manage practical subjects in terms of cumulative method? Okay, this is, you won't go by the cumulative method, but I'll share with you if I have the permission. what I used to do for a practical subject. And most of my foundation students know this. I've shared this trick with them. So let's talk about accounts. Okay, if I've had accounts as a subject, and how do I revise accounts, or how do I go by the cumulative method in accounts? So what I would do is, Kiran sir was my teacher for accounts, and the first problem that he used to give us is a basic problem. Okay, and then we would move on to problem number 2, which had most of the concepts of problem number 1, but there would be that one trick adjustment which was not covered in problem number 1. So what I would do is highlight that new adjustment that we have and keep that just there. Then we move on to problem number 3, which would have the adjustment of problem 1 and 2, but also a new adjustment. So I would highlight that new adjustment. And during the time of revision, I would make sure that I know all the adjustments or how it is done, concept-wise. Okay, that has to happen. And that way you can follow your cumulative method in terms of practical subjects. The next question that I have, okay. How do we get ourselves up when we know our plans aren't working? Okay, when you know that your plans aren't working, try to modify. But before you modify, first find out why your plan is not working. Is it because you are not working enough, or is it because the plan you have prepared is too much? So based on that answer, you can take the next step. You know that you have to amend your plan if your plan is not set correctly, and you know that you have to amend yourself if your plan is right and you are not working enough. How do you cope up with consistency? You have to pay this price. Okay, there are 2 things that you have to pay to become a chartered accountant, and that would be commitment and consistency. And this is, I think, this holds good in every field. Unless you are committed and unless you are consistent in what you do, you are not going to get there. So you have to make up your mind. Okay, I don't know why, but most of us run to quotes or videos to get motivated. I feel that's where the problem lies. The real motivation should not be coming through videos or people telling you a few quotes that are written by others. The real motivation should be your goal. So the highest form of motivation will be achieved only when you don't need motivation. So try to reach that level, and again, everything will come by practice. You cannot have this long-term effect overnight. That's why it's called long-term. How do you cope up with uncertainties and anything that comes your way? Is taking risk worth it? That is a very general question because I don't know what risk you're talking about, but you will have to prepare for uncertainty. If there is a plan that you've made, any uncertainty could disrupt that plan, but you shouldn't be let down by that and try to fight it. You will learn eventually when your plan fails. Any suggestions on how we divide the 1.5 day to study before the exams? Okay, yes, I can give you a suggestion. More than a suggestion, I'll share my experience, then you can make alterations to that. So how the model works is between 2 to 5, you have your exam, and the next exam is after 1 day ka gap. So what I would do is after coming back, by the time I reach home, finish the food and everything, it would become 6:30. And I am a person who wakes up early in the morning. So when I've woken up early in the morning, 6:37 is the point where I have reached my limit. I cannot stress myself anymore. Plus, I've written a 3-hour exam, which is conducted by ICAI. So I have already burdened myself. So again, I would feel guilty if I've not done anything that day. So I would still do something, but I would not do anything new or something that is finding a little difficult. I would just keep my notes in front of me and flip through the pages. This makes sure that something is registered in my head, plus saves me from the guilt that I'm not doing anything. And I would wake up the next morning and start afresh. Whatever I don't like, since I'm a morning person, whatever I don't like was covered in the morning. That would motivate me that I'm done with the worst part in the beginning itself. And now I have the good part for the rest of the day. Plus my grasping power would be better. So whatever you don't like has to be studied when your grasping power is the best. And I would try to finish at least 60 to 70% of it during that day. Plus I get a lot of time even on the day of the exam since I wake up really early. So I would try to cover the remaining percentage during the morning. And I am not a person who would study 2 minutes before the question paper is given to me. I had done that mistake initially, but I learned through it, and I would keep myself calm a lot before the exams. I would go to the exam hall a little early because being in time it's just going to make you feel a little better. But I would not talk to anyone who has 2-3 books piled up in front of them, not because they are wrong, because I don't want to freak myself out. Maybe I will hear something new that I haven't heard. So I'm just there by myself, listening to music or just sitting there casually breathing. Please do not eat a lot of food before your exam. That could also cause a problem, but not eating enough food could also cause problems. So that is how I would manage my 1.5 day before the exam. In the beginning, it's very difficult to follow the timetable. So how do you tackle this problem? You tackle this problem by not giving up in the beginning, because only when you are getting through, you will know that you can perform. Okay. Now you will feel that your progress is very slow. There's something that I'd like to share with you all here. When you're sitting in a flight, okay, if you're sitting in a plane and you're watching the clouds move, you will feel that the clouds are moving extremely slowly, and you think in your head that the plane is so slow. But about 8 to 10 hours later, you're in a different country, you're in a different continent. And that is the effect of doing everything step by step in a method. You will feel that your progress is slow, but when you reach a couple of days later, you will see how much progress you've made. So my friend, the trick to follow the timetable is to follow it every day. Even if you're not able to, try to follow it. Do not give up. I have a lot of philosophy related questions. Sir, tell me if I'm taking too much time. Our life matters, our goals matter too. So is sacrificing your present worth it, or living life is more important? That is where balance comes in, my friend. You have to learn to balance, and you'll be able to balance only when you know what your priority is. So if you feel you're a student who has taken up this course of CA, but you feel that you're giving up your present, that is the whole point of taking up this course. You will have to give up your desires right now only because there is a bigger desire. You have to say no to a lot of things because there's a bigger yes burning inside. When we have to learn multiple subjects, how do we work on it? Should we study one subject at a time or part by part of each subject? This is going to differ from perspective to perspective. When I prepare timetables for my students, I ask them what kind of a person they are, whether they are a person who would study the same subject for a week without touching any other subjects, or are they those students who want to study a little bit of each subject every day. So based on that, I prefer giving them the schedule. But the general thing, if I could add here, is what I would do, take up 4 subjects. There are 4 subjects, let's say in group 1. 3 days of the week are for 2 subjects. 3 days of the week are for 2 more subjects, and Sunday would be for revision. That is the general pattern for timetable that I give my students, but this clearly depends on you. Maintaining studies with work is a little difficult. Can I get a suggestion? It is difficult. I will not deny that you will have to balance between working and studying. But the secret is to start from day 1. Maybe some of you have this problem is because you keep everything for the last minute. So start from day 1, and you know that you have chosen the difficult route of working and studying. So spend your free time in giving more time towards your studies. Try to gain as much as knowledge possible in the classes that you're attending, and stick to everything day by day. Don't miss one day of studies also. Consistency. Okay.
Something in the chat box.
More questions?
There's something in the chat box, Deepika.
Yeah, I know.
Rakesh said something. The way you say no to nothing.
Okay, I missed that. Oh yes, I'm sorry, Rakesh. Could you please tell about the way you say no to things is by having a bigger yes burning inside again? Okay. This is this Rakesh is, see, when you have decided, let's take CA for example. I had decided to become a chartered accountant, and I wanted to. Okay, I really badly wanted to, but like any other normal person, I also had a lot of distractions coming up. Maybe going out with friends, trips they would plan, messages or places they would go to where I would want to be a part of. I would want to be a part of that. But I had to tell myself no, because the desire that I had to become a chartered accountant was much more than just hanging out with friends on one particular day. So the way you're going to say no to things is because there should be something which is really driving you, and that driving force has to be a bigger yes than what you want to say no to. That is all I meant when I said that. Do I have any more questions? Some of you have asked me for my email ID to share the sheets with you. You can message me on any of the platforms. I have left my details here. Okay, that's Facebook, there's Instagram, or you can directly approach me at KVC Academy, and we will share the progress sheets with you. We're happy to do that. If I have any more questions. How do you manage multitasking? Usually we tend to feel that we are monotonous in our way, surviving this course. You answered balance in life is important, but you tend to lose yourself a little more. Yes, you do. You do lose yourself. And you do feel that life is monotonous at that particular point. But I'm telling you this from here, it's absolutely worth it. Okay, it is going to be worth it when you're done with it. And it's just for a short time period that you will have to sacrifice this. And this happens in any field, whether it is CA, CS, MBA. At the time of your exams, you have to keep your focus towards one particular thing. So on the day, a day before the exam, I cannot say balance is important. I'm still going to sleep 10 hours, watch TV. At that point, I have to learn how to prioritize. So this concept of things being monotonous, it is going to be for a short interval. Okay, you're going to choose this, and you've chosen this, and you want to get out of it. So let's finish it off in the time interval that is planned. And how do I manage multitasking? I don't really manage it well. I'll be honest. I don't manage multitasking well. The best way to manage it is to finish off one thing at a time. Just stick to one thing at a time, one day at a time, one chapter at a time, one subject at a time, and you're going to be good. I have a question. At what age did I qualify as a chartered accountant? I qualified as a chartered accountant when I was 24. So before I turned 25, I qualified as a CA. Any more questions? Okay, I have one more. How do I deal with people who are constantly putting you down during the course? This is, I think, an inevitable aspect in the life of a CA student. People ask you how many attempts, why are you taking this long, when are you going to complete it? Do not listen to them. I know it's difficult, okay? You're going to listen to it. You can't possibly help it, but just smile at them and leave them. Okay, a lot of people will keep trying to put you down, but if they're going to put you down, you are not going to be let down if you are good in your eyes. Okay, again, you have to keep yourself in really good books in your own mind. I used to never listen to anyone who put me down. It did affect me. I won't deny that. I did cry a lot of times. I did lock myself up in a room and ask everything. I ask every situation, why me? But then I realized that if I don't take it personally, it is not going to affect me. And even right now, I do get these kind of things where people put me down or try to discourage. But when they are going to discourage, it's them. What they think of you is their perspective. It shouldn't worry you. If it's going to worry you, it will take time until it doesn't worry you. How do you overcome exam fear? Is it a common thing that students get? My friend, it is a very, very common thing that students get. Okay, exam fear is absolutely normal. And how I deal with this is by writing a lot of exams before the main exams. I don't mean the number of attempts, but I had this fear of that 2 to 5, and I really wanted to get rid of it. So I used to write an exam every day. 2 months before my exam, I had planned to finish studying, and a month before the exam, every alternative day or every day between 2 to 5, I would write an exam. So let's say I've written 30 times, 2 to 5, 30 times I have answered. And I got used to that, writing between 2 to 5. And I just convinced myself that on the day of the exam, I'm going to do the same thing, right? Between 2 to 5. Only thing is, instead of my room, it is just going to be somewhere else. That's it. Okay, don't try to listen to a lot of other students a while before the exam. Listen to a good song, relax yourself, don't read until the last minute. And this is how you overcome exam fear. Please write mock tests. Write sufficient mock tests at your institutes, at your coaching centers, even at your place. How do you stop feeling that you're falling behind? How do you stop feeling that you're falling behind? You have to talk to yourself, okay? Because it's better than somebody else telling you. Keep a mentor with you. I had excellent mentors throughout my CA journey, okay? I must admit that. I had Kiran sir. Whenever I needed him, I had my father that I could speak to. I had Jason, and I would talk to all these people whenever something came up. So they would guide me, they would give me a little push, and that is what helped me from not falling behind. And I have fallen behind. But getting up is what is important, not just falling. Any suggestion for 4 months of study leaves, any specific plan? And this is from Ashwin. Ashwin, I want you to speak to me in person, because since you want a specific plan, I'll speak to you. I'll find out how you work, what time you sleep, how much time you spend on what during the day. And based on that, I can give you a specific plan. If I do not have any other questions, I think I'm good to go, sir.
We'll wait for another 1 minute.
Sure, absolutely.
Can we stop the share for a moment now?
Sure.
Let them see you better. Thank you.
Okay, I have one question, sir. I said I have to prepare notes, but that's going to take a lot of time. Yes, it is. Okay, you have to invest sufficient time, but believe me, it's going to take more time if you haven't prepared notes. Okay, it's going to take a lot more time if you haven't prepared notes, and preparing notes shouldn't start at the end stage. It should start when you're attending class. Day-wise, whatever is done, go and prepare your notes at that point. Then it's not going to take a lot of time, but please prepare notes. I am going to stick to that, and I'm not going to change my answer.
So I guess we have a temporary pause to questions to Deepika. I said temporary because she gets bombarded with questions every day. And as she said earlier, please feel free to contact her on our websites, on our Insta handle, whatever, wherever she's there to answer your questions. Deepika, I'm so proud of you today. You covered almost all aspects of planning for students, planning, prioritizing, and performing, which is most important. Because my experience tells me students get lost in planning.
Very true.
They do a timetable, they keep changing the timetable. Half the time they're doing timetable only, they're not studying. Act is the most important thing. Act. Only when you act, you reach there. That's where Deepika has reached today. And with this talk of hers, on your behalf, all the listeners and all that, and on behalf of KVC, thank you, Deepika. Thank you very much.
Anytime, sir.
I have to make an announcement for the coming Thursday. The coming Thursday is a special program for parents of CA students. Okay? Parent, a companion, we call it. So we have some talented accountants coming into the panel. There are 4 CAs going to be there. We'll be answering questions of parents and how to handle their kids, if I can call them. So please encourage your parents to attend this seminar. And this seminar is supposed to be attended by you and your parent together. Use one machine so both of you can look at that. So we can have more numbers participating. Thanks everyone. Thanks again. Thanks Deepika. I think we should call it a night.
Sure, sir.
Good night,
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
And I'm open for any other questions that you have. Please feel free and comfortable to approach me. Thank you. Thank you, KVC, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Kiran sir, for that lovely introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.